So here is one of my drawer pieces, and it has the rabbets cut on each side. It has the holes put in there for indexing. And now what we need to do is turn this over, and it's going to get a groove cut in the bottom. So let's show you the process now for cutting out the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this, and I am going to copy this because all three of mine or all four of these are the same piece. Okay, there's four of them, four drawers or two drawers that are all the same. There's two sides for each drawer. So they're all the same. I'm going to copy this, Control C on the keyboard. Now I'm going to open a new file. I'm going to go File, New. Yes, I've saved changes. Yes, save it. Okay, new file. I'm going to go 48 inches wide, 96 inches tall. This time I'm going to do the other pass. I'm going to use a second piece of material to drill some holes into. So this time I'm going to put 1.5 for my thickness. I'm going to have two pieces of wood stacked on top of each other, kind of like this. We're going to be cutting our double-sided piece. And so I have this extra piece on here because my piece for my drawer is going to be so small that it's not going to vacuum down to the table very well. So I have stacked this sacrificial piece on top of here, and then I can attach my drawer part to here, and that way it'll stay in place, and we don't have to drill holes in our spoil board underneath here, and I don't have to have this full of holes. My sacrificial piece will be full of holes. So my sacrificial piece and my drawer part together are going to equal 1.5 inches. So that's the number I'm going to use in Aspire when I'm setting up my parts as 1.5 inches, because these two top boards here are equaling 1.5 inches. So once I have that 1.5 inches in there for my double-sided piece, I'm going to hit OK. And now it looks the same as the other one did, right? You can't tell that it's 1.5 inches thick right now, but I'm going to paste in my copy that I made. So Control V, and it puts it in the same spot it did on the other sheet. I don't need it up there. I'm going to move it down here because this is where the machine starts working from. This is 0, 0 on the cutting path. So right down here is where the bit's going to start. I'm going to put a scrap piece of wood in here. I don't want to be right on the edge because I don't want anything to break off the edge. I'm going to move this up a little bit. Okay. And we have 4 of these to do. So I can use the same holes for everything. I don't have to make 4 of these right in a row. You could set them up and do all of them at once. I'm going to just do one at a time and run these through. So now that we have this set up, we know our paths all work right because we set that up in the last video. I'm going to go over to my other toolbar, my tool paths, and I'm going to zoom in here. And first thing I want to do is I want to drill these index holes. So I'm going to drill these into that piece of extra material I have. This piece is not going to be on the table. It's going to drill into my scrap piece. So I'm going to highlight this hole, and I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to come down here and highlight this hole. So I've got both of those selected, and I'm going to tell it to do a pocket path. And this time I want to go all the way through that second piece I have. So I'm going to put 1.5. I want to go all the way through 1.5. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch end mill. It tells me it's 3 passes. All that is fine. I'm going to scroll to the bottom, and I'm going to say index holes and save, calculate. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run these on my scrap piece, and that's going to cut these holes out. So then I can insert the pins. All right, so our holes are drilled in our scrap piece. There's sawdust down in there, and so I'm going to put these pins in there, these dowel rods, 3/8 dowels, and I'm going to put them in there, but I want to blow out that sawdust first so that I'm not obstructed and that pin can get in there straight. I'm going to take a little air and blow it out. Now I'm going to take 2 pins, 1 for each hole, and push it down in there. And as you're pushing, if you can't get it to go down, you can take a mallet and lightly tap on it to get it to go down into that hole so that it doesn't move. Now we're going to take our drawer piece, right, that's already cut on one side, and we're going to want to put it on there. But you need to pay attention. If your holes are not exactly centered on your board, then you may need to pay attention. Is it going to go this way, or does it need to go this way? if those holes are offset one side or the other. So you need to make sure when you're laying it out that hopefully they're centered to begin with, and that way it's not going to cause problems. It doesn't really matter which way it goes because of those holes. So just make sure it's orientated right. I'm going to set it down on top of those pins and use my mallet to persuade it to go down. So I've got my piece loaded on here. My dowels are just sticking through my board. My board is sitting down nice and flat against that scrap piece. So after I run these, I'm going to actually delete this so I don't run it again. I don't want to cut through my piece. I'm going to delete this. Okay, because I've already run those holes. Now what I'm going to do is I want to cut this dado because this is on the opposite side, right? This piece, I'm going to hold shift, and this piece have already been done. I can delete them if I want, so they're not in my way. I don't accidentally click on them. Now I'm going to click on this one. I want to cut this dado, and I'm going to hit close right here. And I'm going to do a pocket. And this pocket this time is only, again, going to be half the thickness, so 0.375, 3/8 of an inch deep. Okay, and we're going to select a 1/4 inch end mill. That's fine. Everything else looks good, and I'm going to put a dado on here and calculate. Okay, and now I am going to, I don't have to preview it. You can preview it like I showed you in the last video. Now I'm going to come in here and I want to cut out the outside perimeter of the drawer. This is the actual outside size of the drawer. This was my extra piece so I could flip it over and have those index holes. So I'm going to select the inside square, make sure it goes all the way around that dado. And I'm going to hit now close this menu, and I'm going to hit profile. And I'm going to set this to go not 0.75. Remember we talked last time about going less. So 0.7, 0.69, whatever it is you want to do. And then we're going to hit 1/4 inch end mill. That's good. 2 passes. Yep. Make sure it says outside. We want to cut the outside shape. And we're going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to put outside 1 and calculate. Okay. So now I'm going to do this again. And remember, if I come back to my 2D view, it's still highlighted. I don't have to reselect it, but I'm going to hit close. And now I'm going to do a profile toolpath. And this time I'm going to go 0.75 inches deep. We're going to cut all the way through. I'm going to change my outside pass to just do it one time. I don't need to do it twice because some of that material has already been removed. Make sure we're on the outside shape and scroll to the bottom and put outside 2. Calculate. Okay. So now if I preview this, it's not going to show my parts going all the way through because remember I made it so it was 1.5 inches thick because I have 2 plywood pieces stacked on top of each other. So it's not showing my outside cut going all the way through. That's fine. I don't need to see that. If I come back over here, remember when I select these, I do not see these holes cut because we already cut them and I deleted that toolpath. So now I'm not seeing those. I just see the hole there. I don't need to get rid of it. You can if you want to. You don't have to. If everything is centered on here, then we don't have to worry about anything else. Now we just have to load our piece onto the CNC router. Now we're going to take our drawer piece, right, that's already cut on one side, and we're going to want to put it on there. But you need to pay attention. If your holes are not exactly centered on your board, then you may need to pay attention. Is it going to go this way? Or does it need to go this way if those holes are offset one side or the other? So you need to make sure when you're laying it out that hopefully they're centered to begin with, and that way it's not going to cause problems. It doesn't really matter which way it goes because of those holes. So just make sure it's orientated right. I'm going to set it down on top of those pins and use my mallet to persuade it to go down. So I've got my piece loaded on here. My dowels are just sticking through my board. My board is sitting down nice and flat against that scrap piece. So now I'm going to have the machine go and cut that dado in the bottom, and then it's going to cut out the inside shape. And then we have to save this. So I've got these 3 toolpaths and I'm going to save them and save toolpath. And I'm going to call this example two-sided part. That way I know when I'm looking through these, I know that, oh, mine's not Mason's, mine's not example. The example two-sided part is the one I need so that we have the right parts. So now that's saved. Now I would make sure you're saving your work. Don't just close this because we may have to come in here and run another one. Maybe something when you build messes up and you have to make another one instead of redoing all this work. So just come up here and file, save as. We're going to save it in student projects. If it's not already labeled up there, click on student projects. And this is double-sided drawer part. Save. Okay, so that's saved and we're ready to go. All right, so here is the side that we just cut. It cut out the inside final size as well as the rabbet on the back. Now we can remove it off the table. If it's stuck a little bit, you can take a little screwdriver and get underneath there and work it loose. The middle part should pop right out because that was cut with the 2 passes. It went all the way through. But this frame, if it's stuck on there, just get underneath there. It's garbage anyways. If it breaks, not a big deal. Okay, we can grab a pliers and wiggle that out so that that pin is out. This pin that's stuck in here, we can just take and knock it out. If you get a pin that you can't get out, it's stuck in there, pliers won't take it out, not a big deal, just throw it away. We've got plenty of them. They're just a little piece of round dowel, so not a big deal. If you can't get it out, you've made an effort, then just throw it away. So here's the final product. We have our rabbets on each side. The reverse side has the dado for the bottom to go into, and this will be our double-sided drawer part. If you have any questions on this process, please talk to your instructor and get these answered. Don't try to run this. If you have questions, don't try to run it on the machine. We don't want to damage the machine. We don't want to break any bits. So make sure you get help if you need it.